Rest and recovery has been one of the continuing concerns of many of the players in this Club World Cup. FIFA have had to act, and this is what they've had to say. There is a consensus that there must be at least 72 hours of rest between matches, and that players should have a rest period/holiday of at least 21 days at the end of each season. This period should be managed individually by each club and the respective players, also depending on their match calendars and taking into account applicable collective agreements. Mark Ogden with us, Frank's still with us too. Mark, it sounds like it's what the players want here.
Well, that's what it sounds like. So that came from a FIFA press release, which was put out at 7 o'clock Eastern time last night, so basically midnight in the UK, which seemed a strange time to bury what seems to be a real kind of agreement. But anyway, FIFA are saying they've reached an agreement, a consensus. They agree that players need a bit of a break. We wake up this morning to find an email from FIFPro, which is the global players union, represents 66,000 players, saying, by the way, we were invited to this meeting in New York with Gianni Infantino, nothing to do with us. And somebody at a senior level said, this is a charade. It's not actually what we're haven't been involved with these consultations. Nothing is binding. So right now, it seems like FIFA have basically railroaded this through by speaking to people that maybe on their side rather than people that actually can be the representatives of the players. And just this evening, the FIFPro president has compared it to Nero's Rome, this competition, by suggesting that FIFA have just gone unilaterally and done their own thing and just imposed their own regulations, their rules. So it sounds like an agreement, but it's anything but an agreement, judging by the reaction of FIFPro today.
FIFA and the graphic that come up, the statement, FIFA and player welfare should never be really seen in the same statement. Gianni Infantino wouldn't know what player welfare was if it flew out and smacked him in the forehead. Otherwise, he wouldn't have an expanded 32-team World Cup, having, I repeat myself, Paris Saint-Germain 65 games, Chelsea 64 games. Tell me in this competition in the United States or any country where player welfare is at the top of the agenda. Because there's no rest. You know, the Champions League final was at the end of May, 31st of May, I believe. This competition started in middle of June. Next year we have the World Cup. You know, a proper bona fide competition. And I keep saying this, when you're growing up as a kid, you're watching, whatever sport it is, you watch these sports as a kid, NFL, NBA, football, soccer, whatever it is, and you aspire to be on the biggest of stages. And you're prepared to put your body on the line without rest for those occasions. World Cups, Copa America, Euros, African Cup of Nations, wherever continent you're in, the big moments. Gianni Infantino is basically asking these players to put their bodies on the line for a contrived 32-team competition, whether you have the pyrotechnics, all the fanfare, all the president turning up, or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We can argue about all that till the cows come home. The bottom line is, for this competition, the players have had little rest and the season start in a month's time. So please, 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 why are they talking about player welfare when they don't give us stuff about the player welfare? Let's be honest about it. It's about one thing and one thing only: dollars. And lots of them.
Right, so what is FIFPro doing? What are FIFPro doing? You know, the players should be making a stand. Somebody should be speaking out and doing something about it. All they're doing is going along with it. And Gianni Infantino and all the rest of his cronies are going to keep spewing all this sort of stuff just to appease people. And FIFPro are complaining, well, you get off your backside and do something. Don't just come out and say, oh, we weren't invited. You should know what's going on. You should know if they're getting together, and you should have stopped the players from going to this tournament in the first place. So FIFPro, instead of complaining, actually need to get off the backside and do something, because they're just doing nothing.
But do you know who else is getting no into? And if we've been really honest about this now, it's not just FIFA. Do you know who else has little interest in player welfare? Owners.
Absolutely.
Owners. Real Madrid were desperate to be here. We have Chelsea here, and we saw Todd Bowley going on the field at the end. You know why? And he's happy. Do you know why? Not because his players have got a rest, because they've earned millions from this. They've paid for João Pedro. They've sold Nona Madueke and made pure profit. They're making money. They're getting money in, they're putting money out. Owners, and Stevie's talking about players making a stance. And yeah, that might be the case. But if owners don't care about their own players, pitching up because their club is getting millions, then who is going to care? But I tell you what's going to be interesting here, I think, when all these big leagues start in August in Spain and Italy and England and Germany and whatnot, is what the scenario is going to be statistically wise with the players that have been over here in the States in terms of injuries, in terms of games played, and in terms of performance. I'm going to be really, really interested to see if it has any adverse effect going forward. But when your owners want to be here because they're getting their coffers filled with a lot of money, then what chance have you got of fighting it as a player?
And to that point, let's remember that Real Madrid delayed Jude Bellingham's operation until after this tournament, so that tells you exactly where their head is at in terms of player welfare, so to speak. And I sympathise with FIFPro's position in that this just feels a lot very cloak and dagger to me, as though we'd heard nothing about any kind of meeting or any kind of consultations going on before, and then all of a sudden this statement just put out late at night. And it just feels, again, as though this has been shoehorned almost, well, very much in the dark of night. So I have my suspicions about it. Now, on the one hand, I want to say, well, yes, it's great that they're mandating that players get a certain amount of rest. But then the closer you look at it, you ask, okay, you say 21 days rest. Does that mean 21 days with no games, or does that mean 21 days with no practice? Because to Craig's point, it's just about 21 days between the end of the Champions League and the start of the Club World Cup or next summer's World Cup. So does that mean that players who play in the Champions League final do not train with their national teams before, in the days just before the World Cup next summer? It just feels, it feels thrown together in the dark of night, and for those reasons alone, I am highly suspicious.
Now you know a bit more about these things than me, Shaq. And I'm not being facetious, right? But you've been involved in talking about FIFPro. Now maybe Augie can put me right here. I don't know. As I sit here now, somebody tell me something really strong, really making a difference that FIFPro have been able to do.
Well, FIFPro consolidate individual players' associations. So the English Players Association, along with the Trinidad and Tobago don't have a players' association, but Augie will, I'm sure, put me right, but it's probably about 140 different individual players' associations who fall under that umbrella.
But what are they doing? What are they doing? My point is...
Sure, they are...
I mean, we can
the Union of Players Union. So they're supposed to represent, they're supposed to have a voice, but if you're not told about the meeting, if you aren't invited to the meeting, and again...
Well, that's because they're weak.
Maybe Augie could answer this.
Yeah, let's get to Augie then.
Who sat in this meeting with FIFA? Which representations sat in this meeting with FIFA?
Well, I was told by FIFPro that the people that were representing the players were people that had been expelled from FIFPro, that had been voted off FIFPro. Now, FIFPro and the European leagues took a legal case with the European Union a year ago, last June, against FIFA for the way that they're imposing the international calendar on the club. So there's obviously bad blood between the two organisations right now, so maybe that explains why they haven't been invited. But still, if they're a group that represents the players' unions, they should be there. And obviously FIFA have done this in a way to try and circumvent them and impose their own decisions.
OK, last word goes to you, Frank.
Well, I just want to talk about the statement and the 21 days, and that's going to be impossible if you're an international player, and I can talk about it because I've been through that, and it's been in 1998. So when you're an international player, you barely have 15 days holidays. That's impossible to have more. The club doesn't even allow you to go more than 2 weeks because you have international duties. Even in 97, between the European Championship in England, 96, and 98 World Cup, we had a tournament in 97 with the national team. And the club asked me to come back 15 days after. So they say it's up to the club to make sure they have 21 days. It's impossible for the clubs. So they will have to choose whether they have to continue to have like kind of competition like the competition we just finished today.